Hi everyone, I'm making this video because I want to share the experience that I'm having with some of my displays with the company I ordered them from called Clear Displays, and to discuss the difficulties that I've been facing with some of the products that I ordered on their website earlier in 2022. I'm hoping that this video and the pictures here will help Clear Displays improve on their products so that they can better be used by artists and other vendors who sell their wares at conventions, trade shows, and arts markets, which is something that I do. First, let me say that I love the products that Clear Displays makes, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to fix these issues so that I can continue being a loyal customer. I've bought their products in the past and have used them with great success, and other artists and vendors have actually commented on them. Attendees and visitors of the arts market have commented on them and talked about how great they look. I love that they look natural. I like to order the natural looking wood because my products are very eco-friendly, and having eco-friendly displays and sustainable products is really important to me. So I think when you walk up to a booth that has a lot of that natural wood, it kind of conveys that atmosphere and that significance in your brand from the start. Clear Displays does make clear acrylics, and I've ordered those from them as well a long time ago, and I really didn't have many problems with those either. They remain generally unscuffed, unscratched, very crystal clear. I was using them to display my books for a while until I decided to upgrade and go with their birch plywood book displays. So I've been a very loyal customer of theirs for the past roughly 14 years that I have been in business, ever since I discovered their products. The products that I purchased recently just did not work as described, and I was really disappointed with them. So again, I'm just making this to share that experience with them. That way, without me having to ship them back to them, incur more costs for like packaging and time, which I would have to cover, they can actually see the difficulties that I'm having with the displays and difficulties that I know other customers of theirs are having too. When I was up at MomoCon a couple of weeks ago, I had a great experience interacting with a lot of other artists, and one of the experiences that I had was us kind of bonding over this same struggle with the birch plywood displays that we had purchased from Clear Displays, and they were actually the exact same ones. They had purchased one that I had purchased, but I have a couple different ones in addition to theirs. But they were having some of the exact same headaches that I was having, and I ended up recommending to them to get in touch with Clear Displays and share that experience. I don't know if they have or not yet, but I really thought that maybe they should be sharing that too. I talked to a couple of other artists whenever I was going between the bathroom and my booth, and discovered that they were also using products by Clear Displays at conventions, where we have to set up, a day, in a day and break down in a day, or sometimes we set up on like a Thursday or a Wednesday and we vend like all weekend and then break down. A lot of them do arts markets too, where we're vending outside, and these are artists from all over the country. So some of the people I talked to were from New York. I talked to some from California. I talked to some who were from like the Midwest, and I am from Florida. So we are from all over the place. We do a wide variety of different conventions, and we are all experiencing the exact same problems. And I don't know if they will make a video to demonstrate this to Clear Displays, but I really get the impression that Clear Displays cares about their customers, they care about their products, and they want to be synonymous with producing good, long-lasting products and doing right by their word. So I'm hoping that this video will help them be able to continue doing that, because it'll actually show them the difficulties that I and other artists have been having with their products. The products that I purchased recently were the birch ply 3-tier countertop shelf, which is number 4918. I also purchased the full view birch and acrylic card display. That's number 4938. And I purchased about 5 or 6 of the birch plywood display risers in the 12-inch variety. Now, I purchased anywhere between like 2 to 4 of these two other ones, the 4918 and the 4938. And I was most excited about getting the full view birch and acrylic card display because it has where you can see the full products and the risers are not overlapping, like to where a product is sitting in front of another product from or concealed by a product from a lower shelf. I was really, really excited about that. And I knew that from buying their products in the past that the acrylic wouldn't scratch as bad as some of the acrylics that I bought from other suppliers. I felt really confident in that, and because I had been using their birch ply book racks and the countertop spinner for the past like 8 years and 4 years respectively, and those have shown minimal wear or damaged and have functioned really well setting up at the conventions and trade shows and then breaking them down, I felt really comfortable that these were going to work really well also. Again, I like ordering from Clear Displays because they are family owned and operated, which is important to me, and they are based in the US, which is also important to me, and their site's policies regarding quality products speaks to my desire to have a safe, reliable, good-looking, and well-made display to sell my products, because I believe that a good display can exemplify the quality of the product that it's displaying. You know, someone doesn't want to see you break out like a cardboard box full of your charms or something like I've done in the past and just dump that out on the table. That doesn't look as good as, you know, these nice, clean, natural wood fixtures that you can set up on a table to really set your business apart, really draw in customers, make them feel good about the products that they're buying, and also have that natural wood appearance that really says, hey, I care about the environment, I care about sustainability, you know, this is responsibly sourced, and it gives that natural kind of impression. So this was all really important to me. Clear Displays focuses on environmentally friendly packaging. That was a recent change that they made, and I really liked that about them. They also guarantee that their products will not break within 1 year, and should a product break, they will replace it. However, if you want to return a broken product, the customer has to coordinate the shipping and the packaging and also pay a restocking fee. This part is really disappointing to me because the products that are broken, I don't think they should be restocked. Because they're obviously not functioning right. So I kind of get the impression that, oh, if like one part broke, maybe they restock, you know, the 10 other pieces, for example, that might go with this product, and then mix and match those with each other, you know, with other ones that were working that had been returned so that they can repurpose, you know, the restocked materials. And while normally I would feel like that would work, I feel like the legs of these displays are not actually cut properly to work with the shelves. And in the videos that you're about to see, you're going to see how I demonstrate that and how I attempted to fix that by using a Dremel, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Again, I really love Clear Displays and I'm very brand loyal. This isn't a video to slam them or anything. It's really one to help show them the difficulties that I'm having as a customer because I want to continue doing business with them. Unfortunately, I have no choice now but to continue using the broken displays until I can afford to replace them or maybe get working ones from Clear Displays that won't break and cause me a significant amount of grief that I have been already experiencing from the ones that I did purchase. Therefore, I can't really return them until I have some other workaround that will enable me to showcase the now hundreds of products that I have on a 6-foot table, which is kind of the standard when you go to a lot of these conventions. So relying on Clear Displays' countertop shelves, risers, and card displays has resulted in me ordering a large amount of their products, as well as the acrylic charms that I needed the displays to actually showcase. Had it not been for that, I might not have ordered as many charms, or I would have tried to find some other kind of do-it-yourself workaround in the interim until I could afford something that was much bigger. So now I'm having to quickly pivot and incur more expenses just so that I can get to my next event in such a way that I'm prepared and that it'll look like my displays are professional and have a reliable way to showcase my artwork. And unfortunately, that event is going to be Anime Expo, which is the largest anime convention outside of Japan. It is the second largest in the world, and it's really ultimately why I ordered these displays, was so that I could go to California, go to Los Angeles, be among a little over 700 artists, and stand out. And I'm really worried that that's not going to happen now. I was first able to use these displays in early April of 2022 because I was still waiting on my acrylic charms through March and for the packaging for those charms to arrive. So after I had the inventory, I set up the displays at the Riverside Arts Market, and I was really struggling to get the displays assembled. I remember that the first time I set up the 3-tier bookshelf that they have, I remember it being a little difficult. So I was kind of figuring that after a week or two of using them that it would loosen up a bit, but that didn't happen. Instead, I found that I was spending hours trying to set up and break down my booth, with the bulk of that time not being breaking down the tent, rather being spent on breaking down the displays and struggling to assemble them. I actually sprained my hand and my wrist trying to break down the displays in late April, and when that happened, I decided I was going to just contact Clear Displays for assistance. They seemed a little confused to hear that I was having such difficulty, and then basically said that because I exhibit in Florida, that was causing the wood to expand, and that's actually what's causing the problem. So it's because I'm in Florida that I can't really use the displays as they're intended to be used. So the implication of this is that I'd be unable to use any wood displays if I lived in Florida, but that's not the case because I've been using some of their displays for years in a variety of settings, and they've been working. I also have some other displays from other vendors that don't make them anymore that have worked and have not had any expansion issues. Not to this point, at least to the point you can't break them down to the point that the products are breaking. I've never seen that actually happen. I did additional research after receiving the email because, again, I have I have these displays from Demdaco that don't expand to the point that I can't assemble and disassemble them. I also have the spinner display and that book display that I talked about from Clear Displays, and I've used these for years in Florida and throughout the entire country at countless conventions, and I haven't experienced any of these issues. The more likely solution in my mind is that the gaps on the legs of the displays just aren't wide enough to accommodate the width of the backs and the width of the shelves, as well as the acrylic parts that are supposed to fit into them like little puzzle pieces. So whenever they're too tight, whenever they're cut too closely, it is causing that expansion. But even before the expansion even happens, I'm already struggling just to put the pieces in there. So I think if it was just a little wider, maybe even like 2 millimeters, if that, maybe even just a millimeter more, I think we would see I think there would be fewer of these kinds of problems for everybody, regardless of whether you live in Florida or Milwaukee. The packaging that came with the displays from Clear Displays stated that I should try using a rubber hammer to both connect and separate the various parts. I did attempt this by borrowing one from one of my vendor friends, but I didn't have any positive results because of how close the shelves are to each other on the reverse, which is something that you're going to see in a bit. And using a mallet also would mean that I would really have to be able to reliably balance the displays upside down, and that they would have enough room to kind of pop out, and that just isn't possible, especially when you start removing more of the shelves and the backs from the legs of the display, because some of them do get a little wobbly, so you could actually risk breaking them even more if you took a hammer to it and were like banging on it. I also don't like using the hammer because there's a lot of dogs at the arts market, and whenever I'm trying to set up in the morning or break down, there's still a lot of animals or a lot of children, and those kind of noises really tend to bug them. So in early May, I decided that I was going to use a Dremel to sand down some of the wood displays so that I could widen the openings on the legs. This was a bit dangerous of me to do because I don't have the proper equipment for sanding the displays, and after I spent 2 hours, I had only sanded maybe a third of the display openings, and by that time my sandpaper tool that fits onto the top of the Dremel that spins around to actually sand it so that I don't have to like shimmy it by hand, that was completely worn out, and I decided that it wasn't really worth sinking any more time into forcing the displays to work. And I started thinking more about, okay, if these displays just aren't going to work, if they're going to be this much of a problem, then what I'm actually looking at is completely replacing the displays altogether. And that was really disappointing. So the videos that you're going to see here, those were recorded on Saturday, June 4th of 2022, before and after the Riverside Arts Market, which is a market I exhibit at several times per month. This comes a week after I traveled to MomoCon in Atlanta, Georgia, where I met a lot of other artists who are having the exact same problems, who don't necessarily vend outside. And it comes just a week prior And just a week prior to that, I'd used the displays there with moderate success several weeks after I had that sprained wrist from trying to disassemble the displays, which was ultimately what prompted me to use the Dremel to modify them. So please take note that the only reason some of these parts even come apart at all is because I heavily modified and sanded them down with the Dremel, but that kind of effort with the Dremel was just a little too inconsistent to get the same sand on every single part, and after a while my sandpaper was dead, so I couldn't do it anymore, so it resulted in all of them not being able to be sanded down evenly or consistently. And you see this guy is like watching me record this on the bottom left for some reason. I don't know why he's sitting there watching me, but he's very interested in what I'm doing. It's kind of creepy. So you can see I'm having to like try to get this to stick into there. You can tell that this is one that I dremeled down, and you can see some of the cuts in the wood are pretty deep because of the Dremel and the Dremel's inconsistencies. So that's what you're seeing there. I'm also wearing a side-up band-aid, which is awesome. So this is me trying to stick the, what we're calling the shelves into the legs of this display. And these are not the postcard ones, these are the other shelves. And you can see how long it's taking. Like, I think we're up to like a little over a minute now, maybe more, and it just keeps happening. That they keep like coming out, and this is part of the reason it takes a while to set them up. It's just they kind of flop around and then they get stuck. And you can see the writing on the side of the shelf. You see where it says B flat. Those are the,
so that actually got it in, and now I'm going to try to get the other top piece in here. But as you can see, they're like flopping in and out, or they're not like. So again, so I get the back piece, and the idea according to the instructions is supposed to turn this way, put it on the top, but as you see, it's falling apart. Like, it's not able to do this. So I spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to line these up. God, you can't even like see it on the video. I had to let that fall because let me pause. Like, this is what's happening right now. You can't get this in, and it's like wobbling. So I'm trying, you know, but it's not working. So this is after about 3 minutes of struggling, and it's still not actually assembled. All right, so this is what's going to be. See, this side goes down, this side doesn't. So I have to angle it up, and you can see that this side is bent. This side is bent. So it doesn't go in correctly. And the reason it's not going in correctly is because if you look in here, there is like, oh God, I don't even know if I can show it to you. I'll take a picture later, but there is a ledge right here that I could not sand off on any of them. Like, none of them. I could not sand that guy off. So I have no choice but to shove it past that. and hope to God that it doesn't break. There. So now I've got another one that we're going to try to get in here. And I'll tell you, the second shelf, usually the worst. But I really have to push down on these things. And you can see this one's already broken. And this is one of the displays that I had to take a Dremel to make it work. But look at how this just like doesn't work. Like, I have to really push this together. It just doesn't stay. This is the clear acrylic that goes over it, and as you can see, it is horribly scratched. Like, it is ridiculously scratched. I think that's not even the guy that goes on this, but all of them kind of look that way. Like, here's one. It's got huge scratches across the surface of it. I've kept these in cloth when I travel, and they scratch no matter what happens. Like, they are just not working out. So now I'm going to show you one that I modified part of the base for, but didn't modify the shelves because I had tried sanding the shelves. You can see the ridge here just like the other one. See the ridge? That's from going in too tightly. Like, that's how bad it is. So I'm going to try to assemble the same one from a different angle for you. So you can see how long this takes, because I haven't run the camera the entire time, but I'm up to over 10 minutes right now just trying to assemble 2 displays. And these should be pretty plug and play, but they're not. They're not. So I got that on. And this does not want to go in. I'm going to show you guys real quick. This does not want to go in again. See? It's just, it doesn't. Like, I have to keep shimmying it to try to get it down. And it doesn't necessarily go down. So, I think it's in there. Now remember, these boards are not modified at all. Back up a little bit here. These are actually going down because I Dremeled the heck out of it. You saw how big the gaps were? Because I Dremeled off a huge portion. Like, look at how much I had to Dremel off right here. You can see the space. Maybe. Yeah, you see this space right here? This space right here? That's how much I had to Dremel. Otherwise, it's too snug of a fit. And you can really see just how much I had to Dremel off of there to get that smooth fit. And you can see how uneven it is. Like, on all of the sides, you can see like how uneven this is, because that's how many problems I was having. Like, look at that gap. Look at that gap, like right there. See all those gaps? That's because it doesn't fit evenly. It doesn't go down all the way, see? So when I have products on it, I really have to shove this baby down there, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Otherwise, my products are sliding through the bottom right here. And I'm not gonna buy an add-on to make that not do that. This is the first one I assembled. Look at the gap here. Look at that. Look at that. That's what I mean. Like, it's so inconsistent. And these were not as heavily Dremeled. Like, remember, I didn't Dremel this side as much. See how that's still flat? See how that looks different? Like, I can push that down now. But when I go later to try and get this off, look, I'm not gonna be able to get that off. I'm just literally, like, I can hold the entire display up like this and shake it, and nothing is going to come off, which seems great, but the problem is when you go to take this apart, that doesn't work. That's really bad. Okay, so I'm gonna do one of the, these are called the postcard holders. I'm gonna do one of those now. And this can be a thing. This can be a real thing. And you can tell that these have split. If you look right here, you can tell that there's, you know, problems with it. Like this one just outright broke right here. It's just broken. This part is just completely shattered, you know, and all of them are like this. All of like the individual sets have different levels of damage. So I'm gonna put this one in first. And you can tell, like, I have to use a good amount of force to get that in there. I'll show you. Like, I don't think I could even do this with my left hand. Now, the reason I'm pushing so hard on this is because they have to be flush. They have to be. Otherwise, things go out the back. So, like, you saw that cursory push I did. That's so loud. Didn't actually get this all the way down. It has to be all the way down or it doesn't work. So now you have to put the other side on. And the reason I can't do them at the same time is because they will get stuck. They will get stuck if I try to do them together. So I have to do them this way. I'm really having to push them in here because they are just not wanting to go. And remember, they have to be perfectly flush or else the backs aren't going to go down. So this is the first back, and you can see that this one's already getting little cracks right here. I'm going to try to get this down. And this is the really crazy part of what you have to do. To push down, right? And I'm going to angle this up a little bit so you guys can see, I guess. I am really pushing on this. Okay. And it went down like right when that went down. And then it's supposed to pop into place. It's not popping into place. So the idea, this is not actually securing pretty much anything. Like, look at that. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. So I'm gonna try to get the other parts down. And notice this one, this is the broken one. This is also a broken one. So of course it's gonna go down easier because there's not as much friction to keep it. Nope. Nope. And see, it's not that it's touching the bottom here. It's not touching the bottom at all. Like there's gap here. I just cannot physically get it down. So I have to try to pull it up again, but I can't because I'm gonna get splinters. So I can't actually, like, I'm shaking the table trying to get this up. I gotta try and go down. And so you have to grip it like this with your finger underneath it to pull these parts up. You cannot pull it like, look. See how it just doesn't work? So once it's broken, you can't do that because it's not gonna work because you're gonna get splinters. So I'm gonna push it down and then I've got to push this part back to get it in there. And I cannot get this, ouch, ow. And it pops me. So, and then I'm still having to really push down because if I don't get it flush like this, see that hole right there? My products slide through that. My acrylics slide through this hole, like my packaging slides backwards, and then all of my stuff looks horrible, and I have an image for that. But what amazes me is that this still doesn't even, like, sometimes these go on, but the acrylic doesn't even fit. Look at this. Like, the acrylic, I'm having to, like, bang this thing, and you don't want to bang it. Like, this is just not going down. Look, it's not going down. It's not going down. Let's see if I can show you. Like, it's not going down. It's just not, it's not working. So that's going to be a nightmare to get off later. Here is another one that is completely shattered from doing this exact behavior. Okay, so
I'm really tired. It's the end of the day, and I'm gonna try to take this one apart. This is one of the postcard ones, and I want you to see, this does not just come up. Like, I'm holding down with the top of my hand on the top of this. Like, look at this. This is not coming up. It does not move. So I have to force it, ouch, ow, to force it out. And that's how some of these end up breaking. Like this side, see how this is broken right here? That's why this breaks, because you cannot get it out. You can see me literally wiggling this, trying, and it broke. It literally, did that capture it? Because look, it's broken now. It's broken, and it just got stuck again. Look, see that literally just happened right there. So to give you an idea, see that just snapped clean off. So there goes another part. So I'm sure that's going to look really good. So this is the one that you have to pop this part out. So I have to push this one side down and then push it out and pull up at the same time. Otherwise you can't get it out. So that doesn't work. You can't do that. So then you come to the bottom and you say, okay, I'm going to push this back and I'm going to try to pull this up. And look what just happened. Look what just happened right here. See that? That? Now it comes out. You know why it comes out? Because this just snapped. Look at that. See? It's broken. It's broken. It just completely snapped right off. So that's now another piece that doesn't look good. So now I have to get this side, and the best way that I can figure out is to push it against my legs and go like this. And I could try to take a mallet, but honestly the mallet doesn't do any good. It just makes a lot of noise and kind of disturbs animals and dogs. So I can't do that either. So I have to do that. You know, look at that. You can see where this is torn up, right? See that? See that right there? You can see where it's torn up. So then I'm going to have to do the same thing to this one. I'm going to have to push that down and try to pull this up little by little. And it is a very snug fit. So this one came off fine. But now we got to try and get this one and see this. I can't pull it the same way that I did before because this is splintered. This is broken. So I'm not able to do that. So I'm trying, because I have my finger on this side pushing right here. I can't do that on this side because of the splintering. So I'm trying to get this. Okay, I'm going to pause it right here for a second on this because I don't think I did an adequate job explaining what's happening. The narrow top part of the highest back on the that's still attached to the legs is actually right now pushing directly into my thighs while I am pulling on this shelf because there's so much friction being caused between the back, sorry, I called it a shelf, but the back of the display. There's so much friction between that back piece and the two legs, as well as the front shelf where that lip is. You see that there's a lip that the back is having to be drug across. There's so much friction between these four parts that I'm having to really push against my thighs and use my thighs as kind of an opposing force, you know, as a wall, just so that I can get this out. Because if I were to try to disassemble it, as you previously saw on some of the videos at the start that are on the Clear Displays website, if I were to just try to pull it straight up, I don't actually have enough strength to do that. The height isn't conducive to it. Even if I put it on the ground, I can't do it. I've tried it many different ways. And again, if you take a hammer to this, you're kind of jarring the different sides of it more so than if you're trying to control it, you know, by hand. And even if I were taking a hammer to it, what would I be hammering it against? You know, how would I be holding it to use that hammer to get it out? I would still have to be pushing it against my thighs or against something else to hold it in place while I hammered it. So I don't feel that I really did a good job explaining how I'm using my thighs to get these parts to come off, but it does go straight across the center of my thighs, and I do get bruised in the spot where the top of these displays is pushing against my thighs, so that I can pull these parts out of the legs, despite the resistance that they give from the legs and that they're giving from the front lip of the shelf that they're having to slide across. Again, I just think this is something that could be resolved if the gaps on the legs were a little bit wider, and then you would only really be dealing with maybe some of the shelf lip friction as opposed to friction from two different parts of the leg kind of pincering the back as it's being slid across. I think it would go a lot easier if that weren't the case. So I'm going to go ahead and unpause the video so that you guys can see the rest of it. But I just wanted to take a moment to like explain how that's working, and it's not just that it's laying flat on the ground, you know, or it's laying flat on a table. It's actually being really, really pushed against my thighs.
Up really slowly. There we go. So that one I managed to not break in half again. I'm just putting these into the container that I store them in, which is honestly padded. It's not like they're hitting metal or anything. And now I gotta try and get this same one up again. And if I pull too hard on one side, it ends up breaking it. But sometimes you can't tell.
Okay, so the reason, I'm going to pause it one more time and say the reason I keep saying that I have to tug up on the sides and not in the center is because, one, you cannot get a good grip on the center. The shelves and the backs are very narrow, so it requires a pretty tight pinch. I have tried wearing rubber coated compression gloves when I do this, and that's how I usually do it, but they weren't making that much of a difference. So I stopped wearing them because it gets really, really hot and that can cause some more fatigue. But even if you grip them in the center, what ends up happening is because you only have one other free hand, you can't hold both of the legs down while you pull up in the center. And as you guys saw before, I can literally hold these displays up by any shelf and they're not going to have any parts separate. You really have to tug at these things. And because I'm trying to remove the smaller shelf from the legs right here, I can't use my legs as you know, an opposing force to pull them up. So I have to start on either side because I can't just grip in the center. Otherwise, there's no way to provide that kind of opposing force to yank it up out of that display. If the cut were a little bit wider on the legs so that the shelf went in more easily, you could just set this thing down on its back and just kind of pull up gently and it would come up. But that's not the case here. And I'm not having to separate this part from anything. As you can see, the part that puzzle pieced into it earlier is no longer there. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the cracking. That's why you're seeing that there's uneven force being applied to both sides of the shelves and of the backs whenever I'm having to remove them. It's because I'm unable to grip them in the center because that cut is too snug. So I'm having to grip them on the sides so that I can lean over, brace the leg with one hand, and gently pull up. But it's really hard to gently pull up when they are jammed. I have no other word to use for that, but they have to be really jammed into those slots on the legs, you know, to prevent those gaps that you saw earlier in the video. Otherwise, we end up with gaps, and you're going to see close-up of those gaps in a bit after the setup portion of this, or the breakdown of this, finishes. So I just wanted to talk just for a second very briefly about why I'm choosing to adjust it on the left and the right side of these shelves and backs as opposed to just pulling up in the center. It's because you can't just pull up in the center. You just can't. Like, it really, genuinely, it does not work to pull up in the center. So it kind of stinks that you have to do it this way because I think that is what's resulting in more breakage. But ultimately, there's no other way to do this and actually get those shelves removed.
And now we gotta try to get this last one. And remember, I told you I was pushing against my legs to get this last one. So now I have to try to wedge the thing out. There we go. And that's what I mean, that it's really difficult. And you can see, if I move it like this, you can see where it's wearing right here. And it wears on all of the spots because it's getting creased. Like, this is, video's not capturing it very well, but that's how hard you have to work. So that took about, now I was showing you guys that, but it took about 4 minutes to break down just one of these. Something that, quite honestly, you should be able to just yoink, 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 you know, and it come loose. You could say, oh, does that make your display, you know, rocky? Does that make it move? No, it doesn't.
Pausing again just for a second because I want to discuss what I meant when I said it doesn't make a difference if you can just quote unquote yoink them out. As I was saying there, I was really tired. The reason I'm saying that that doesn't make a difference is because the Demdaco display that I have breaks down very, very easily. And I'm going to go outside today, like I'm actually recording this on a couple of different days. I'm going to go outside today and break one of those down for you and set it up for you so that you can see the difference between the Demdaco and the clear displays, like how those interact, and show you some of the durability issues of the clear displays versus the Demdaco display, which is ridiculously similar, but I've never had this level of problem with it. Like I said, I would go back to ordering the Demdaco ones if they actually still sold them, but they don't, and it's a shame. So that's what I was referring to with it didn't need to be that way.
The other displays that I have do not function like this. And now I have a bunch of broken pieces. And you can see like how scuffed these are. Despite me originally storing them in cloth, it didn't make a difference if I just toss them in a bag or do cloth. Hey! Good, how are you? Is she filming? Cool. So now we have this one. This is a different one, and these come right out. And you can tell that these are thicker acrylic, but they're still getting pretty scuffed up. And these are the ones that get really hard to disassemble. So you see that this is like that, and if I don't push these down all the way flush like you saw before, then my products come all the way out. These are the ones that I've heavily, ouch, modified to try to get it. Oof. God, sorry. These are the ones I've heavily modified. Like I sanded it down, and you can see how uneven that sand is right here. You can see how that's not even. That's because I took a Dremel to it so that I would have ease to get it in and out. Like, because this side isn't Dremeled, and you saw how much harder it was to remove.
Pausing again for a brief second on this one, I keep talking about the Dremel and why some sides are not Dremeled and some are. That goes back to what I said earlier about how I only had so many of those sandpaper heads for the Dremel to actually use on this that were not like metal sanding, that were the right kind of sanders. And then the just amount of time that I was having to spend, because I spent 2 hours Dremeling down the Dremel sanding down the parts that you have seen that are sanded down, and you can see how unevenly they got done because I, like, again, don't have a work set up to be able to do that safely. I felt like it wasn't safe to continue doing that. I felt like I was spending a whole lot of time, and as you can see, it's for kind of moderate results, and then results that create these very unsightly gaps because they are very uneven gaps, and I don't like the way the uneven gaps look. I was also worried that I might, accidentally chop off a part of it if the Dremel, just kind of got away from me, because again, I don't have the right setup to do this, but that's the reason some of these are Dremeled. Some of the slots are Dremeled and some of them aren't, is because after 2 hours of doing it, I was out of supplies. I was fatigued. I was feeling like it wasn't safe anymore. So that's why some of them are and some of them aren't. But you can see how much easier the sides that are dremeled come up very readily most of the time, and that's because it's accounting for any wood expansion that might happen, and it's actually widening the gaps in those legs, the slots for those shelves and the backs, so that they do slide in more comfortably, and I am even able to pull them out a little bit better each time.
Even though, yeah, it's broken. So I'm going to try to get the next one up, and see, this side scoots up because I've taken a Dremel to it. I've increased the size of this gap. But this side, not so much. See, this is not Dremeled. And I can't get it out. Like, I can't actually physically remove this. So this happens all the time. And I mean, I am really pulling right now. And there we go. We got a little bit up. But see, if I do it any harder, I have to now shimmy it by gripping it like this on the ends to get it up. And again, like with it fitting that tight, you know, they're saying, oh, use a mallet. Show me how you get a mallet in here to get these out, you know? Because if you try to use a mallet to get this guy out first, you can't get a good hit on this part without banging up this bottom board, right? You see how close that is? What kind of mallet are you getting that gets in there really good? So you have to get this part out first. But if you try to get this part out first, you can't because of the other part that's there, and because this isn't designed to slide out through the front. You see, it gets stopped by these parts. So this part has to be disassembled, where you take all of the top shelves off first, and then you pull one of the sides off, like you guys saw me assembling it before. So this one is loose, thankfully, but this side, not so much. Ah, there we go. Nope, okay, there we go. So got that one off. And now we can put it on its side and try to get this off, but as you can see, it's still quite stuck. So I managed to get that one off. Now this one's just falling out. I mean, that makes no sense. I couldn't even move it before. Trying, there we go. It does not want to come out. Oh, God. By the way, I'm up to 8 minutes right now, and this is about the clip that I would disassemble these at. So it's taken me 8 minutes to disassemble something that, quite frankly, like two things that should have taken me maybe 20 seconds each. And just, you know, for posterity's sake, we're going to do another one of these postcard holders. So these, to show you how uneven the cut is, these are actually coming off. Remember how hard it was for me to remove that last time? No problem. No problem removing these. Just the other one had an issue, which makes no sense. They should be cut to the same size. So we're going to try doing the same thing, removing the bottom first, which we have to push down and pull up. And I almost just broke it again on this side. Ouch. Okay, so I got that one out. Honestly, I am really thirsty right now, and this is not budging. Like, this is just not, I have to pull it against my leg. There we go. So now we're gonna do the second shelf. We're gonna push this down pretty hard, and we're gonna pull up on that, and we're gonna pull up on this and hope to God it doesn't break again. Okay, I got that one out. But, is this the one? No, this is not the one. I was wondering if this was one of the modified ones, but it's not. And now we're back to not being able to move them again. Oh. And you can see why, as an artist, this is not something I want to be doing, because you see how hard I'm having to, like, use my hands? That is not good for an artist. Ouch. Okay, so this one we can't do the same tactic because it's already broken. So you have to push down. This one disassembled faster than the others. But notice, like, this is not, it's still not flush. Like, you can see the gap there. Oh, God, this is... And see, it's still... Like, look at that. Look, just look at that. Like, it's not even in there. It's just, I mean, the wind's blowing it. I'm not moving it. And it's just not coming off. I just kind of think it shouldn't be like that. Alright, so now we're going to grab this next guy. And I've only got like 4 minutes left of video to record. So I'm going to stop talking and just show you guys what happens when I try to break it down quickly. But fortunately, this is the one that has like the increased Dremel lines. You see how it's curved right here? That's because I cut it down. I cut this thing down so that I could actually disassemble it. And that's why this one is actually like working a little bit better than the others, because I shaved it down. I adjusted it. And you see how much faster that went? That was like 20 seconds. And even then, I'm still having trouble getting these out, despite all the sanding that I did to them. And see, I know that these are the ones that pair together because I've labeled them. So I know which ones go together. I know which ones are easier to undo, so that if I have to do a show and just have a couple up, I can not pick certain ones because they hurt. They hurt really bad. So here's one of the messed up things, and this will be the last thing I show you guys. I got 2 minutes. These are the top parts. Watch how easy that is to remove. It just falls off. So if I were to hold these upside down, they pretty much come right off. So this snug fit that I had to get earlier, and I told you guys I have to do it a specific way. That's not the way. Yep, there we go. So I actually have to do this to push it out. And that kind of hurts, to be honest. It doesn't feel very good to do it this way. Like, and here we go again. I have to figure out which way to do it. And then I can push down. Ouch. And that is the only way to get these separated. If you try to just pull at them, you're going to sprain your hand. But I have 5 of these, and like this one just came off. I don't know if you guys saw how readily that just popped off. And see, look at how it moves. It's just, I don't know. This one's really easy to remove for some reason, but the others are ridiculously hard. So it tells me that the cut is super inconsistent. See, I can't get it again. Alright, and then I have to, ouch. Yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to disassemble these, and they wanted me to make a video for them. So I wanted to show them how easy they are to disassemble. Somebody literally just walked by and asked me if I was okay. So, thank you, I appreciate it. Huh? Thank you. So, thank you guys for watching, but this is more broken stuff, you know? I can't do anything with. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys something really ridiculous. This is how, like, this, you can't pull this apart. Like, I got it partially in. You can't, like, you can barely separate it, see? I haven't made any changes to this one, but these are supposed to go into a larger piece to make it lay flat. I cannot push this down together up to a point, so this is not going to lay flat. Look at the distance right here. So this is what I have been having to do to get it down. Been having to do this, which is resulting in bruises, but that is the only way to actually get this part flush. And I will have to, as you're going to see later, remove it in the same way, which hurts even.
Okay, so what you just saw was the footage that I recorded this past weekend, which was June the 4th. And I spent the past couple of days not feeling very well, so I edited the video together. Didn't have a lot of time to edit, but the video that you're about to see is me assembling the Demdaco display out here on the rooftop of the apartment complex, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And this was recorded today, which is Thursday, June 9th, which is the day I'm hoping to upload the video. So you're going to see a big difference between the two kinds of displays. You're going to see that the Demdaco display has a lot lighter wood. You're going to see that it has a lot of signs of wear because I've been using it for probably 8 to 10 years. And you're going to see that it's much easier to set up and disassemble. So I just wanted to demonstrate that for you guys, and also preface this with that this wasn't recorded on the same day. Okay, as promised, I'm up here on the roof of the apartment complex, and I'm going to show you how to assemble the Demdaco ones that I have. And the reason I know they're Demdaco is right here. So I left myself some notes on how to assemble this one. This one does have a very specific assembly order, but these are actually labeled by Demdaco themselves, and then as I did with all of my other ones, I label them accordingly. You can see on this one, the lighting is much better here than it was at the arts market. Like right here, there are some wear points where you can see that it's worn down a little bit, like in the same way. But when I go to slide this together, you'll see that it's not having major issues. So the gaps do appear wider on these. Maybe, I don't know. They're also a lot lighter. Like this is a lot lighter of a wood. So okay, so I'm gonna try to assemble this. I have my phone up on a picture frame holder. So these are what I call the flats. These are the shelves. These are the backs. This is the top of the backs, which is very important for this one because it's supposed to come with some kind of sign. And then these are what I call the legs. So this side, I obviously don't want to take the sticker off, so I use that for the inside parts. And the reason I say the back is important is because you put the back on first to stabilize the whole piece so that you can just slide everything in, because there's no way to do this without starting with this part. Now I've had this display for about, I don't know, 10 years now. You can see it'll actually blow, like I'm not moving it. You see it will blow if you don't put merch on it, but so do the others, and it's super windy up here. So all of the displays, whether they're clear displays or they're the Demdaco one, the Studio Demdaco, they all blow. So now I can't remember, I'm pretty sure we put the flats in first, so I'm just gonna slide these in. That's it, they're slid. I'm gonna slide another one in. That's it, slid. Slide the last one in down here. Make sure I face it the right way because it, like, you know, it does have the sticker on it. Okay, that's on there. Now I'm gonna put, okay, so I did do it wrong. So I'm just gonna, watch how easy that is. Watch, like, look at how easy that is. Now watch, I'm just gonna drop it on there. Check this out. Check out how easy this is. I'm just done. 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 So that's completely set up. And yeah, it's a little less stable, but it used to not be this bad. It's just worn out with wear. And if I could order another one of these, I would. You can see how they fit together. It's using the shelves here, these lower shelves, to support the front weight. So it doesn't require that same flush fit that the clear displays one require. The clear displays one, you know, this will end up going in front of this, so it requires a very flush fit, but that's not the case here. And then you can see the back has the branding, and then I could do a little sign here if I wanted to, which I've done before. It works out pretty well. Now I'm just gonna disassemble it just to show you how easy it is. Just gonna, you know, like, take that off. Look, I'm not holding it or anything. Like my hand is up here. Look, I'm not holding it. And that's it. That's what I mean, that it doesn't have to be that difficult. And I've done no sanding to these parts. I've made no modification to these parts. And prior to me using them, they were used in a retail store where they just sat there on the shelf for years and years and years. So again, that's the I think these are the Studio by Demdaco, but they don't make them anymore. If any of you know where to find one, I'd love to buy more of these. I'd love to commission some customs, because I think this works a lot better, and it's lighter, so I can travel with it more efficiently.
So that's it, guys. Thanks so much.
So here are the displays from the late April arts market. That was the market that prompted me to contact Clear Displays, and also to use a Dremel to sand the legs on most of the displays. It was after dealing with them that day and only partially like setting them up that I knew I was going to have something different, because going into that day, I knew that I was going to be struggling to disassemble them because I was already fatigued from the prior weeks. So I was just doing the bare minimum that I had to do just to make the displays function. I just wanted to get as much product vertical as I could. So I pushed each of the backs down just enough to kind of get them snug, but not to force them in like I usually have to do with them to get that really snug fit that honestly isn't even really that snug. But then the resulting gaps, even some of the smaller ones, as you can see in these pictures, resulted in my product still sliding through the back of the displays. So I knew that I really couldn't keep using these displays without having them completely fitted, and I knew that I had to do something to modify them so that they could be somewhat usable. Unfortunately, by this time, I was already out a few $100s just on the displays themselves and for the shipping. And as a result of all this, I had wasted quite a bit of time and energy and have now lost opportunities to make more products for my summer shows. That kind of results in me not having as many sales, and that's not so great when this is how you pay your bills. It's how you eat. So it kind of compounds a little bit, from each incident that I'm having to spend trying to find workarounds, or having to modify, or having to do research to try to figure out why some wood displays are working in Florida or working at MomoCon or working anywhere in the country and other displays are not. That takes a lot of time to do, and I didn't want other artists to continue experiencing this kind of frustration that I'm having, because when I was up at MomoCon, like I said, there were a lot of us who had ordered from Clear Displays because they look fantastic. Like, you look around the internet, you don't really see other products looking as good as those. So people who want their booth to look really great and want to have that very natural finish are going to gravitate toward Clear Displays, and they really should, because their displays look fantastic. But if we're continuing to have these kinds of problems, and we're artists and we're injuring our hands and our wrists trying to get these things assembled and get them disassembled, then I really feel like maybe there should be something that says, hey, these are not meant to be set up and broken down, within the same day. They're more of a set it up and leave it. We just ship them to you flat like this because it saves on shipping and there's less damage. But kind of the impression you get from like browsing around the site is that it does work for setup and breakdown, because it does have that modular appearance. It does have that puzzle piece together kind of appearance, where it still looks flush and it still looks good when it's assembled, if it can be assembled correctly. And that's the key there, is if it can be assembled correctly. But unfortunately, I'm out quite a bit and I'm kind of stuck, right? Because I need to use these to display my products to sell them, because I'm out a couple $100s that I would need to invest in products that are going to work, or I would need Clear Displays to replace all of them without me having to spend more time actually packaging and shipping these back, which also costs a lot of money, and paying a restocking fee, which I don't, again, you've seen how these things fit together now. I don't really think that this is something that should be restocked, and that the pieces should be taken from some to be added to others, because I think that's what could be happening here, right? You have your machines and everything set up a certain way, you have everything calibrated, and if everything's kind of cut at the same time using all of the same calibrations, at least with my cutting machine, I found that I get a much more reliable cut than, cuts that I make, 2 weeks later using those same calibrations, because the machine wears, right? There's wear and tear on the machine. There's wear and tear on the blades if you aren't using laser cutting. So there are new calibrations that had to be made, and I don't necessarily think that a part that was puzzle fitted to go with one leg should be taken and restocked to go with another set of legs, because I don't think that those are going to necessarily work together. And if these are all cut at the same time using all the same calibrations and they're not working together, what's to say that they're going to work with another set? I would hate for somebody else to get these same products shipped to them because it was restocked. I don't want to buy a restocked item either. Like, are the products that I bought restocked? It's just, I would feel really uncomfortable sending it back in that scenario. So that's one reason I made this video, like I said before, was just to be able to show them and demonstrate the difficulties, and considering I've had to heavily modify these things to somewhat get them to work, I don't think that restocking them is going to be applicable either, because I don't want to send them something that is heavily modified like that, or all of these different broken parts. That doesn't feel right either. So I'm hoping that Clear Displays will be able to work with me and to help make this right. A little bit of what I had talked about just then about the research that I had to do to try to figure out, what's going on? Why don't these work? How come this one I have from Demdaco works and others don't? How come some of the other displays that other artists are using work, but these don't? Like, what is the problem here? Why does it feel like, either there is an expansion problem or there's not an expansion problem and it's a cut problem? If it's not a cut problem, if the pieces were cut correctly, if they were cut to allow enough space, I feel like we wouldn't be seeing those little like tracks being left from the shelves and the backs whenever they slide into the leg, but instead we're starting to see like these grooves and tracks that are left behind. So that leads me to believe that the cut is what's not working, that it does need to be like 1 or 2 millimeters wider on those legs to be able to accommodate the acrylic, the shelves, and the backs. But let's say that it was the wood. Some of the research that I did, because I was like, okay, I'm going to have to buy new displays again, and I really shouldn't have had to do this for at least the next 5 years. I started doing some research on like balsa wood, because my Silhouette Cameo 3 can cut balsa wood. I asked a friend to help me out to figure out if that would be a good route for me to go. He learned that it would basically be way too malleable. It's too soft of a wood. And then some of the problems that I've experienced with the Silhouette Cameo 3 in being able to reliably cut cardstock just kind of lends me to not want to go that route. I also don't have a workshop in my very small apartment, so even though I am really interested in learning how to do woodworking so that I could modify displays that I get from Clear Displays, I can't do that right now, and it would cost a whole lot of money and a whole lot of equipment and time to learn how to do this and to equip myself to be able to do it. So that's not really an option. So then I started looking around like Etsy and Pinterest and on other sites and looking for vendors who can custom make these products. And I'm like, but are they all using the same wood? Is it the wood or is it the cut? Because if it's the cut, then yeah, that can be changed by Clear Displays, right? And then I don't have to do all this. But if it's the wood and these people are all using the same wood, then what kind of wood do I actually need to be looking at? So I did some research into that, and I discovered that really fir and cedar are great for combating expansion. So whenever you have humidity, or if you're going to be taking the displays, into different rooms of the house, maybe one's in a kitchen and then you take it into a bathroom and it steams up, or you want to travel all over the world with it and maybe you're worried about the expansion and contraction of the wood, fir and cedar are two fantastic woods that don't tend to do that. And if they do that, they don't do it as badly as something like birch. And birch is what Clear Displays and a lot of other suppliers use. So that's been a really big takeaway for me from this experience, is that birch plywood is going to expand and contract a lot more than fir or cedar. And I also learned that fir and cedar are a bit more expensive because they're more difficult to source. And I don't really like that as someone who wants to focus on like a lot of sustainability, likes to be good for the environment. I don't really like the idea of picking trees that are already hard to source. But if, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. But looking at that, I went over to Home Depot and I started pricing out, okay, how much would it cost for me to do this? Are there any that I could get cut very simply? Can I just get like a vertical display and put it on an easel? And I've been doing all of this other kind of research now. I've reached out to some other local wood crafters who did some displays for Scrumpchi, who is an awesome scrunchie and hair accessory artist who I met through the arts markets. She's fantastic, and she referred me to them, and right now I just don't have the money to be able to fund that. And even if I did fund that, those displays are very large, they're very heavy, which is kind of what I'm looking for my arts markets displays, but they're not something that's going to solve my problem whenever I'm exhibiting at a convention. I need something light that can be transported and not have these kinds of issues to where I'm getting hurt whenever I set it up and break it down. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to problem solve this on my own, because I'm really concerned that maybe clear displays won't make it right. I haven't had a lot of positive experiences with a number of businesses over the past few years, and I'm just not sure what the end result is going to be. So I'm sitting here trying to equip myself for the worst case scenario, and wanted to share with you what some of the things I found were, and it's basically fir or cedar if you're going to be building your own displays and you want to make sure that they're not going to lend themselves to heat and expansion. And if you know that your products, you're working with something like birch or like a wood that does lend itself to expanding, and you want your customers to be able to use it in different atmospheres than, just the warehouse that you're making it in, then the cut size on like the legs or, whatever holes you're making might need to be a bit wider to accommodate for some of those adjustments. But again, I had a problem with them from day one, and the problem has just kind of persisted. So I don't really know which of those problems, or if it's both of those things that are causing it. I really just don't know. I do know that widening the gaps on the legs so that the shelves and the backs could slide in a little bit better, that seemed to work all right, and you guys could see that in the videos. So I'm thinking that had the legs had wider gaps in them, that really would have solved, at least like 98% of the problems that I encountered with the displays. So again, I am happy with Clear Displays. I like their company. I think their company is fantastic. I want to continue working with them. I'm just putting this out here so that, they can kind of see what I am dealing with, and hopefully I won't have to, pay a lot of money or spend a lot more time trying to troubleshoot this, or sending things back and forth and contacting more people, because quite honestly, the summer is really, really busy with conventions, and I'm trying really, really hard to get a lot of new products out so that my business can continue being good. So thank you guys for taking a moment to watch the video. Thank you to Clear Displays for allowing me to make this so that I could share it, and hopefully be able to troubleshoot through this, and hopefully work on a solution that will work for everybody, because that's really the best, right? When all the boats rise with the water. So thank you guys again for watching. Sorry it was a little long. I just don't have a whole lot of time to edit, so I rambled. Thanks again, everybody, and I hope you have a fantastic day.